Righteous fall, don't let up. Every time we gon' get up. When I call, he came and saved. Keeping my eyes on God, I'm strong and bold. He came and saved. Righteous fall, don't let up. Every time we gon' get up. When I call, he came and saved. Keeping my eyes on Yahweh.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to the Holy One of Israel, to the Creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is, by saying hallelujah. We give all praise and honor to the Holy One of Israel, to the Elohim of our fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yisrael. Let me say shalom to my beautiful brothers and sisters, the children of Israel, the house of Israel. My name is Mowreh IshYAH YisraEL of the house of Israel, located here in Cincinnati, Ohio, 1907 Vine Street, bringing you another program that the Creator has allowed us to bring to you of nothing but the truth. And yes, it is true. All we're going to do is tell you the truth. For Yah ordained me to tell you the truth. And this is what I will do. But if some reason you are suspicious of anything that I'm telling you and saying to you, then just give me a call and we'll discuss it. 919-931-6216. Again, I praise the mighty Yah for allowing us to bring to you each and every day the word of Yah. And who is this Yah? Yah is the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is. Yah is the only king, the only savior, and the only lawgiver in the world and of Israel. And Yahweh is the Father, the Elohim that had chose our father and their descendants to be a peculiar treasure unto himself. And we're going to bring to you the word of Yah. We have brought to you the various signs and the various meanings of each day that the Almighty has allowed us to see and that he had created. And we showed you where the Creator, when he made the first day, he said, let there be light. And there was light. And he saw that the light was good. And he separated the darkness from the light, or the light from the darkness. And he called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And this was the first day. But what did it represent? And we always need to know what it represents. Because according to the wisdom of Yah, Yah said, to everything there is a season and a time to everything under heaven. Or every time has a purpose under heaven. And so we know when we see time, we see purpose. And if you have purpose, it's only because it came by the way of a certain time. And since Yah created light on the first day, he did it with a purpose. and what was his purpose. And we find all over the scripture that when he brought in the light, he also brought in his word. This is why the Most High said to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is only because there is no light in them. Then the Almighty made day 2, where he made the heavens. And he put a mist in the midst of the waters. And he separated the waters from the waters. And he separated and divided the waters that was above the mist from the waters that was below the mist. And he called that mist heaven. And he said the evening and the morning were the second day. And when Yah made this heaven, what was his purpose? Well, all over the scriptures you will see where the Almighty, when he made the heaven, this was his throne. And not only was this his throne, but also he ushered in, because it was his throne, his great name. That's why you will see in the second generation of man, they began to call upon the name of Yah during the time of Enos. That's why you will see in the second month, during the time of the 4th year of Solomon, they began to build the temple unto the name of Yah. That's why you will see the first time the Almighty commanded Moses to rear up his sanctuary that was built before the temple was ever built and even thought of. This was done in the 2nd year. All for his name. And then the Almighty made day 3. In day 3, Yahweh took this water that was all over the earth and he gathered them together. And he said the gathering together of the water he called seas. And he said, let the dry land appear. And it was so. And the dry land called he the earth. And in this earth, he made every herb bearing seed, every tree bearing fruit with the seed in itself. And he also made the grass bearing seed. All on the 3rd day. And he made everything after its kind. But what did it mean? What did it represent? Well, the 3rd day also had purpose. The purpose, the Almighty was not going to make all these things without the thought and the mind to have a steward or a messenger that will govern and rule the earth. And this is why the Almighty put a sign to let everybody know who this messenger is. That's why all over the scriptures, such as in the case of Jonah, who was in the belly of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. Why? Because it represented the earth, the day the earth was made. How about Levi, who was born, the 3rd born of his father, as well the 3rd born of all the sons of the tribes of Israel? And why? Because he is the messenger of Yah. And how about Moses? Moses was hidden when he was born in Egypt for 3 months. And why 3 months? Because he was a messenger of Yah. All these truths will let you know that these things, there is definitely, as the Almighty let us know in his wisdom and through his wisdom, to everything there's a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. And we can see, because all we got to do is learn time, and once we learn time, we automatically will learn purpose. Unfortunately, our people don't know time, and therefore they don't know purpose. Then we dealt with the fourth day. On the fourth day, the Almighty said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven. And let these lights, and these lights was called luminaries, let these lights separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs, seasons, days, and years. And let these lights give light upon the earth, and separate the day from the night, and let them rule over the day and rule over the night. And Elohim saw that that was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And what did it mean? What was its purpose? And we find that the purpose of these luminaries, of these lights, was to praise the Most High. This is why the Creator let us know in the book of Psalm 113, from the rising of the sun unto the going down of the same, Yah's name is to be praised. This is why the fourthborn of Leah and Jacob was the tribe of Yehudah. And according to the scriptures, Leah said, now I can praise Yah. And you'll read this in the book of Genesis, the 29th chapter. Why? Because the fourth represents his praise. Such as in the book of Leviticus, the 19th chapter, where the Almighty said, 3 years, y'all, when we come into the land, 3 years, all the fruit shall be uncircumcised to eat at all. But in the fourth year, it shall be holy to praise Yah withal. And why? Because it represents Yah's praise. And why do you think the temple was built in the fourth year? Although it was built to his name in the second month, it was built for his praise in the fourth year. Why? Because the fourth represents his praise. And you'll find this all over the scriptures. Because once you know time, you will know purpose. And then now we're on the fifth. And the fifth is very unique. It's very peculiar, as is the other days. And I want you to see the time of the fifth and its purpose. Now, why is all this important? Why are we bringing these things to you? Are we bringing these things to you to show that we got some knowledge or some slick thing that we're doing and trying to show you? No. The Almighty said he is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. Well pleased. And since he is so pleased with his righteousness, he said he will magnify the law and make it honorable. And Yahweh wants you to understand time and purpose. Then maybe you'll understand why he gave you certain laws and he wants you to do certain laws. Because once you understand purpose, we have people killing themselves because They don't see purpose. And this purpose should help you to finally serve Yah. So what is the purpose of the fifth? Well, let us start reading so we can get some understanding. For Yah said, wisdom is the principal thing, but with all thy getting, get understanding. So we're going to start in the book of Genesis, the first chapter. In the book of Genesis, the first chapter, this is what it says in the 20th verse. And Elohim said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that has life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And Elohim created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters bring forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And as I brought to you before, every day Yah saw that what he had done was good. And the only day that was different was the second day. And we brought to you why. Because this is the only day, the second day when Yah made the heavens. It is the only day Yah took 2 days to make one thing. And that was the heavens. And he completed it on the fourth day when he put the luminaries and everything else in the heavens. And then we were able to say, well, praise Yah, because now he had completed it. And he saw that that was good. I may add, 2 represents the heavens. That's why, according to the scriptures, the Almighty said, let every matter be established by 2 or more witnesses. Or 2 or 3 witnesses. This is why. Because Yah said we are his witnesses. But let us finish this. Because we're on day 5. The 22nd verse. And Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. Now, first glance, looking at this, you won't think there's a lot to this. But I can assure you, just like we read with all the other 4 days, there's a lot of things in this that you really need to see. Because what do the 5th represent? As you can see, a lot of things are multiplying in this day. He said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that has life, which is all the sea creatures, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And a lot of people don't know this is where the fowl come from. I know the scientists may tell you something otherwise, but Yah only will tell you one thing and one thing only. And he's just going to tell you the truth. And then he talked about the great whales. And every living creature that moveth which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, every winged fowl after his kind, because that's where the winged fowl come from. He blessed them and told them to be fruitful and multiply. Fill the waters and the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth. And you're going to see exactly what this 5th represents. Well, let me show you. So you'll know whether it's the 5th day, whether it's the 5th morn, whether it's the 5th time, whether it's the 5th month, whether it's the 5th year, the 5th generation. It represents the same thing. And let me show you. Go to the book of Leviticus. Leviticus, the 19th chapter. And then you're going to see exactly what I'm telling you. And not only see it, you're going to know I'm telling you the truth. In the book of Leviticus 19, and we're dealing with the 5th or 5, watch what it says. In the book of Leviticus 19, and I'm going to start reading at the 23rd verse so you can get an understanding of Yah's order. Because until you know his order, everything else is out of order. And everything Yah do, he do it in order. There's an order to it. Why you think Yah said he was going to make the crooked thing straight? Because he has to have order. And if he has to have order, we have to have order. And look what Yah says. 19 and 23. And when ye shall come into the land, and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, then ye shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. 3 years shall it be uncircumcised unto you. It shall not be eaten of. But in the 4th year, all the fruit thereof shall be holy to praise Yah withal. Didn't I tell you the 4th represents Yahweh's praise? And watch the 25th verse. And in the 5th year shall ye eat the fruit thereof, that it may yield unto you the increase thereof. I am Yah, your Elohim. So what do the 5th represent? Well, all over the scriptures, the 5th represents Yahweh's increase. Why you think he told the waters to bring forth abundantly every living creature in the waters? Why did he bring them forth abundantly? Because it represents his increase. Why do you think he said, let the fowl multiply above in the firmament of heaven? Every winged fowl that the waters brought forth. Why? Because it represents his increase. And that's why he made great whales and other sea creatures and told them to multiply after its kind. Because it represents an increase. And not just the waters and the fowl and the sea creatures, but watch what the Creator let us know, to let you know I'm telling you the truth. Watch what he let us know in the book of Exodus. Turn there. In the book of Exodus, the 20th chapter. In the book of Exodus, the 20th chapter, we're going to read the 12th verse. Now, why is the 12th verse unique? You're going to see today why 12 is unique in itself. But the 12th verse is talking about something very peculiar, and watch what it says. Exodus 20 and 12. Honor thy father and thy mother, that days may be long upon the land which Yah thy Elohim giveth thee. Now why are your days long by honoring your father and your mother? And what do that have to do with increase? Well, this how you increase your days, by honoring your father and mother. And what commandment is this? Well, brothers and sisters, if you know the order of Yah commandments, this is the fifth commandment. Because the fifth represents Yah's increase. Why you think in the fifth year you can eat the fruit that it may yield this increase? Why do you think honoring your father and mother, which is the fifth commandment, your days can be prolonged or increase? Because these things represent Yah's increase. This has everything to do with multiplying. This has everything to do with wages and wealth and longevity. And not just you being increased because you honor your parents, not just because you wait until the fifth year to eat your fruit when you came into the land and it yields its increase unto you. Where did we start this journey, letting you know what these things mean? Well, we started with our foremother, our foreparent, Leah. And let's see what Leah have to say about this, since we learned all the other things from her. In the book of Genesis, the 30th chapter, let us turn there. And what are we discussing today? What are we bringing forth to you today? Well, Yah's order. And where did we start? In the book of Genesis, the first chapter, which is the beginning, which is the first, which is the head. And this is where we started. This is where his word started at. And if we don't understand the beginning, then how can we understand the other things? In the book of Genesis, the 30th chapter, we're going to start reading at the 14th verse. And remember what we're discussing. We're discussing the fifth. And what is its purpose? We see how abundantly Yah brought every living creature that's in the waters. We see how they multiplied the winged fowl that came from the seas in the open firmament of heaven. And we seen how they multiplied in the water. But watch what it says. Genesis 30:14. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? So you can see there was still a little tension. So I can understand why Yah said, when he gave us our laws, he said, look, you don't take to wife a woman and her sister, because we see the tension that it can breed. But watch what it says. And Rachel said, therefore he lie with thee tonight for thy sons mandrake. So she barred her with her sister. She said, look here, I tell you what, just let me have the mandrakes, and you can take the night that I'm supposed to have with my husband. He can lay with you. That's what you call bartering. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening. And Leah went out to meet him and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And Elohim hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bare Jacob Yaakov the fifth son. And Leah said, Elohim have given me my hire. In other words, he given me my increase. He given me my wages for this hire. He paid me off because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. Because that's what the fifth represents. It represents increase. Whether that's increase is in your longevity of life, whether that increase is in birth, or whether that increase is in money. But it represents increase. And all over the scriptures, you're going to see the significance of this increase. Furthermore, in the book of Genesis, the 5th chapter, still dealing with what does this mean? And why is it important for you and I to have this understanding? Because to everything, there's a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. And if one begin to learn time, then they will learn purpose. And if you want to know purpose, you got to know time. And I may add, brothers and sisters, our people are ignoring time, which means they're ignoring purpose. In the book of Genesis, the 5th chapter, and it's not just irony that we're going to Genesis, the 5th chapter, since we're dealing with the number 5, since we're dealing with the 5th, and you'll see what the 5th chapter of Genesis is speaking of. And this is what it says. This, in the first verse, this is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that Elohim created man, in the likeness of Elohim made he him. Male and female created he them. And he blessed them and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. And then Adam started having sons. And I want you to read this chapter very slowly, because I don't have the time to go over the whole chapter. So I will explain certain things to you, and then you go back and read it. But the very first son that Adam had, who replaced, of course he had Cain, and he had Abel. Well, you won't see Cain even reckoned in the generations of Adam, in the genealogy of Adam. Why? Because the Almighty banned Cain. He separated Cain. He cut Cain off. And that left Abel. But Abel was murdered by Cain. So the Almighty had to have someone to represent the righteous. And of course, he replaced Abel with Seth. You read this in the book of Genesis, the 4th chapter, and I'll read the 5th and 26th verse. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son and called his name Seth. For Elohim said, She have appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. So Seth replaced Abel. And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. And as I said, what the second represents, well, it represents the heavens. And that represents Yah's name. Then began man to call upon the name of Yah. And so these are the generations of Adam. The first generation of Adam is Seth. The second generation of Adam is Enos. The third generation of Adam is Canaan. The fourth generation of Adam is Mahalaleel. And let me tell you, Mahalaleel, his name means praise Elohim, which is the fourth generation. And as I said, this represents Yahweh's praise. Eno represents Yahweh's name. And Canaan represents land. What you think our land is called? It's called the land of Canaan. And who is the steward and the messenger of that land? Well, that's Israel. But the fifth descendant generation after Adam is Jared or Yared, which you'll read in the 18th verse, and we're going to read, since we're dealing with increase. And this is what it says. Genesis 5:18. And Yared lived 162 years and begot Enoch. And Yared lived after he begot Enoch 800 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Yared were 962 years, and he died. And you might say, well, it didn't really say nothing. Well, it said a lot. You just didn't see it. Well, little do people know, Yared is the second oldest man in the whole entire scriptures, because he died at 962 years. He was the second oldest. And I told you what 2 represents. Yah's name. And not only he's the second oldest man in the whole entire scriptures, but look who his son was. His son name was Enoch. And we're going to get to the 6th, because he was the 6th generation. But this man was very blessed. So blessed, and we'll deal with this tomorrow. This is what it says in the 22nd verse. And Enoch walked with Elohim after he begot Methuselah 300 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with Elohim, and he was not, for Elohim took him. He took him, why? Because this man was so blessed. And I'm going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was indeed blessed. Why do you think he was a son of Jared? Because little do people know that the very first thing Yahweh blessed was on the 5th day. The very first blessing came on the 5th. When Yahweh said to the fowl of the air and the fish of the sea, he said he blessed them and multiplied them. And he told them, he blessed them and told them to be fruitful and multiply. The very first blessing came on the 5th. And this blessing that you read about on the 5th is different than the blessing that you're going to read about on the 6th. And it's also different than the blessing that you're going to read about on the 7th. But this is the very first blessing. And this is why this man, y'all read, seed was blessed. I may add, not only his seed was that blessed, but just show you something real quick in the book of Genesis, the 10th chapter. And what are we discussing? We're discussing the 5th. And watch what this says. To see if what I'm telling you is the truth. And we're going to read the Genesis, the 10th chapter, the 21st verse. And this is what it says. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Heber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, because Japheth was the elder. That's why in Genesis, the 10th chapter, when it talk about Noah's descendant, the very first one it mentions, of course, every time it mentions, say Shem, Ham, and Japheth, because according to Yah, Shem is first. But as far as their birth order, you notice Japheth's descendants is spoken of first. And why? Because he was the elder. And then second is Ham descendants. And then third is Shem descendants. And that's what we're reading about right now, the Shem descendants. 22nd verse, this is what it says. The children of Shem, Elam, 1, Ashur, 2, Arphaxad, 3, and Lud, 4, and Aram, 5. These were his children. And watch what it say about their descendants. Watch Aram's decision since he was the 5th, and since we dealing with the 5th. And the children of Aram, Uz, and Hol, and Gether, and Mosh. And remember I told you the 5th was very blessed. And it represents increase. Well, the first son of Aram is Uz. And let me tell you how blessed Uz was. And who represented the land of Uz. As a matter of fact, there's only one reason you know about this land. If you study the scriptures, you'll find this in the book of Job. Turn to the book of Job. Job, the 1st chapter. And watch what it says in the very first verse in the book of Job. And remember the first son of the 5th son of Shem. There was a man in the land of Uz. And who was this man? Whose name was Job. And no, he wasn't no Oriental, no Chinese, or none of the things that people are teaching you today. He was a blessed son of Shem. And watch what it says. And that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared Elohim and eschewed evil. And I'm going to show you why he was so blessed. I'm going to show you why he was so perfect and so upright. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. And watch this, just to show you this. Watch it. Watch what it says in concerning this man in the land of Uz. And watch what it says in Job, the 2nd chapter. Still speaking of the descendant of the 5th son of Shem. The 3rd verse. And Yahweh said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth Elohim and escheweth evil, and still he holdeth fast his integrity. Although thou movest me against him, destroy him without cause. Because this man was very blessed. And he was so blessed because this was the first thing Yahweh blessed in the earth, was the 5th. That was the first thing. And when he blessed the 5th, he blessed it to increase. And this is why you see this. As a matter of fact, it'll tell you that Job was the richest man here. And why? Why was he the richest, the wealthiest? What do you think the word increase means? Furthermore, speaking of Yahweh's increase, in the book of Leviticus, the 27th chapter, I want you to turn there. And we're going to get back to this being blessed. In the book of Leviticus, the 27th chapter, because we're dealing with increase. But why is it relevant? Well, it's relevant because this, in the 5th commandment, the Almighty said, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long, that thy days may be increased upon the earth. We're talking about the 5th because Leah says she hired out her day, her son. And as a result of that, the Almighty gave her her hire and blessed her with her wages, which was her 5th son, her increase. Because anytime you work for something, that is your increase. The Almighty said we're not to eat the fruit of the ground until the 5th year, so it may yield us its increase. So in the book of Leviticus, the 27th chapter, this is what it says. Starting at the 30th verse. It says, and all the tithe of the land, whether the seed of the land or the fruit of the tree, is Yah's. It is holy unto Yah. And if a man will at all redeem aught of his tithes, he shall add thereto the 5th part thereof. And what is the 5th part of your tithes? Well, the 5th part is its increase. In other words, all through the scriptures, if we borrow anything, we're not to add usury to it. We're not to add nothing to it. But not so for the tithes. With the tithes, if we borrow of our tithes or redeem out any of our tithes, we're to add there to the 5th part. And if you know a little bit of math, the 5th part is 20%. That's what a 5th is. And that's what we here to add. And what is the 5th? The 5th is Yah's increase. So if you borrow, you add that 5th. You increase it. Because it belongs to Yah. And of course, you will see this all through the scriptures. But going back to Genesis, about this Shem, I just want you to see this. Oh, really, it's about Shem, but it's more about the generations of Adam and the 5th chapter. Because, again, a lot of people don't know this, so this is why I'm bringing these things to you. And all you have to do is read and study what I'm telling you, and you're going to know, and you're going to see that I'm telling you the truth. The first generation after Adam was Seth. That's 1. Enos was 2. Canaan was 3. Mahalaleel was 4. And we already told you what these things mean. Jared is 5. Enoch is 6. Methuselah is 7. Lamech is 8. Noah is 9. And then all you have is 3 more left, and that's Noah's sons. And I told you, as we read the book of Genesis, the 10th chapter, you'll see the birth order of Noah's son. And it was Japheth, which is 10, Ham, which is 11, and Shem, which is 12. And most people don't know this, and I've been bringing this to our people. A lot of people notice it now. Notice this now, that Yahweh only has 7 different orders. Only 7. Because he completed everything on the 7th day. And then after the 7th day, everything is repeated. Therefore, when you get to 12, that's like 5 all over again. In other words, 12 is the order of 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. And you're going to see this, and we're going to bring it to you, even if you don't understand it right now. But most people do, because they've been following us in teaching these things. So 12 is just 5. And you're going to understand what I mean by that. Why you think Shem was so blessed. As a matter of fact, other than Genesis, the 1st chapter, when the Almighty blessed the 5th day, he didn't bless the 5th day, he blessed the first thing in the 5th. He blessed the sea creatures and the fowl. Because you're going to see in the 6th, Yahweh blessed man and beast. And you're going to see the only day that Yahweh blessed is the 7th day. But the first thing he blessed was on the 5th. And that's real important to know. And Shem was the 12th generation. And why do you think he was so blessed? If you don't believe me, watch what it says about Shem in Genesis, the 9th chapter. In the book of Genesis, the 9th chapter, show you what it says about this man named Shem. Even before it speaks about his generation. And we're going to start at the 25th verse. Genesis 9 and 25. And he said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren." Why you think the many of the people that I'm going to say that comment because I want to show you about this Canaan. 26th verse. And he said, "Blessed be Yah, Elohim of Shem." You never see where blessed be Yah, the Elohim of Japheth, or blessed be Yah, the Elohim of Ham. But you will see And he said, blessed be Yah the Elohim of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And we know Shem was blessed. Who you think came from Shem? Job. And Job was a perfect, upright man that ensureth evil. Through the fifth son, his fifth son Aaron. This was his grandson. This was part of the generations of Shem. And let me tell you, why Shem? Because didn't I show you the first thing that Yah blessed is the fifth. Why you think it's considered the increase? And I may add that 12 is the fifth. And I want you to see this, how important this is, because watch what it says in Genesis, the 12th chapter. To show you what I'm telling you is the truth. In Genesis, the 12th chapter, and it's not irony, nor is it happenstance that we're about to read this in the 12th chapter of Genesis. The first verse says, now Yah had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation. And watch what he said about Abram. And I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And didn't I tell you the fifth is the first thing that Yah blessed? And 12 is in the order of 5. 12 is like saying 5. And watch what it says. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Because this is the first thing that Yah blessed. And how did he do it? He blessed them to increase. Because once we get to the 6th, and once we get to the 7th, you're going to see another type of blessing. But this was a blessing that Yah put on the fowl and all the sea creatures, because that's where the fowl come from. And he blessed them and told them to be fruitful and multiply in the sea and above the earth in the firmament of heaven. And this is what they did. So everything on the 5th, Yahweh began to bless. Whether it's the 5th born, as in case Issachar, or whether it's the 5th generation, as in the case of Yared, or as in the 5th year, as in a case where he said the fruit can be eaten that it may yield its increase. Or how about the 5th commandment, where it says, if you honor your father and your mother, that thy days may be prolonged or increased upon the land which Yah thy Elohim giveth thee, all representing increase. And let me show you, 12 is Yahweh's increase. That's Yahweh's increase. Why you think Shem was so blessed? And you're going to see why Noah is so blessed because of this. Look what Yahweh said and did with Noah. In the book of Genesis 17. So you can see what I'm telling you is the truth. In the book of Genesis 17, the 20th verse, and watch what it says. And as for Ishmael, I've heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. Now, how will Yahweh do this? 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. And why? Because he's the seed of Abraham. And why? Because his 12 princes. And what is his 12 princes? What are they? What do they mean? What do they represent? What are their purpose? Well, their purpose is for increase. Because that's what 12 represents. It represents an increase. But it also represents the first thing that Yahweh had blessed. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. And if you don't know anything about the Ishmaelites, one thing you should know about them, even today, that they are very rich. Who you think own all the oil? Yeah, most of the Arabs. Who you think fund most of all the various people in the very region over and around the land? The Muslims, the Ishmaelites. Because they're very rich. They're very blessed. And they all over. As a matter of fact, they say Islam is the largest growing religion. They say it has surpassed Christianity. And I can believe it because of their increase. But not just Ishmael. Because I need you to see what I'm telling you is the truth. Go to the book of Genesis, the 27th chapter. And before we go to Genesis the 27th, we'll go there first. Then we'll show you. Let me make sure it's the 27th chapter. Well, let us go right to where I really wanted to go first, and then we're going to come back, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And this is in the book of Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, because this is going to clear up a lot of things for you. A lot of people read this scripture all the time, but the scriptures say wisdom is the principal thing. But with all that getting, get understanding. In the book of Deuteronomy 32. And I want you to see what this says. In the 7th verse. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee. Thy elders, and they will tell thee. And what should we be asking our fathers? And what will the elders show us? Well, let me show you. A verse. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For Yahweh's portion is his people, and Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. Now you might, if you hadn't seen and the light bulb hadn't turned on, you should be able to understand at this moment, at this time, why Adam, 12 generations, 12 descendants after Adam, and we named them, was done, and why they was formed, and why they was positioned the way they were. It was only because of the 12 tribes of Israel. And what do 12 represent? All 12 represent is Yahweh's fifth, his increase. It's the order of 5. The very first thing that Yahweh blessed. It is the fifth. Now you should be able to see why Yahweh do this thing at 12. Why do you think Abraham's son Ishmael had 12 princes? And Yahweh told Abraham, don't worry about your son, I got him. He's going to be blessed. And he was. And he's going to be fruitful and multiply. And he did. And what did he have? He had 12 princes. And if you don't know how many tribes are in the children of Israel, you should know by now. It's 12 tribes of Israel. And in Genesis, the 12th chapter, that's where the Almighty told Abraham. He told him to get thee out from your parents and from your kindred and from the land of your nativity, for I will bless you. And you be fruitful and multiply. And he told him that he was going to bless him in the earth to the extent that he said, all the families of the earth shall be blessed in him. And what did Abraham have? The third generation of Abraham was Jacob. And Jacob, he had 12 sons. And they were called the 12 tribes of Israel. And let me show you what these 12 represent. If you don't believe I'm telling you the truth. And I need to show you this too. This is real important. Going back to Genesis, before I get right into the 12 tribes of Israel. In the book of Genesis, the 26th chapter, watch what it says. And we're going to start reading at the first verse. And this is what it says. And there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And Yahweh appeared unto him, and said, Go not down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell of thee. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swore unto Abraham thy father, and I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven. And why? Because this represents Yahweh's increase. The very first thing Yahweh blessed. And will give unto thy seed all these countries. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. And why? Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And here it is, you got Israelites going around saying we don't even have to keep the laws. And we don't even have to keep the commandments. What sense do that make? I can understand Christians and Muslims and other people saying that, but I can't understand why Israel is saying that. Because Israel represents Yahweh's increase. And the nation in which Yahweh had blessed. And just so you'll know that I'm telling you the truth, in Genesis 27, watch what it says. And we're going to read the 29th verse. Speaking of the blessing of Jacob. And let's read the 28th and 29th verse. And this is what it says. Therefore Elohim give thee of the dew of heaven, the fatness of the earth, plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be master over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. See, we are the blessing in the earth, not JC, not Muhammad, and not anyone else. The sons of Jacob, Israel, we are the blessing in the earth. And if anyone would like to concern themselves with the blessing, all you have to do is bless us. And you'll be blessed. But make no mistake about it. If you curse us, you shall be cursed. And Yahweh gave you 12 opportunities, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, to get it right. So there's no excuse. You bless us, you be blessed. But if you curse us, you will be cursed. It's up to you. But 12 represents, it's the order of 5. And 5 represents Yahweh's increase. And the 5th was the first thing that Yahweh had blessed. No wonder in the book of Exodus 15, you will read this. Exodus 15. Still dealing with the 5th. Because all this represents the 5th. And it also represents Yahweh's blessing and his increase. In the book of Exodus 15, I'm going to read let's start so you can understand this. Let's start at the 24th verse. This is what it says. And the people murmured against Moshe, saying, what shall we drink? And this is what our people really are good at. They're good at complaining. 25th verse. And he cried unto Yah, and Yah showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them, he tested them. Now, why are these? This tree that he showed him, and he cast it in the waters. What was this all about? Well, we're talking about the filth. And what did Yahweh do in the filth? Didn't he abundantly multiply everything in the waters? And watch what it says. And said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of Yah thy Elohim, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I brought upon Egypt. For I am Yah that healeth thee. In other words, I'm the one that blessed thee. 27th verse. And they came to Elim, where were 12 wells of water. In other words, before then, there was no water. They didn't know how they was going to get something to drink. And 70 palm trees. And they encamped there by the waters, because this represented Yahweh's increase. This was the thing that Yahweh had determined and decided to bless first. The waters. I may add, if you're still not convinced that I'm telling you the truth, go to the book of Exodus 24. I showed you where the fifth commandment, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which Yah thy Elohim giveth thee. Your days will be prolonged just by honoring your parents, your father and your mother. Why? Because that's the fifth. And Yahweh blessed the fifth. And he increased the fifth. I showed you where the fifth generation after Adam was the second oldest man in the scriptures, which is on earth. Jared. And his fifth son, Aaron, was so blessed, and his name was Enoch, that Yahweh, the scriptures say he walked with, because in the fifth, not only Yahweh blessed it, he blessed the descendants. But in this fifth, he not only walked with Elohim, but Elohim, Yahweh took him because he walked with Elohim. I showed you where Shem is the 12th generation of Adam. And Yahweh said, blessed be Yahweh of Shem. Because Shem was very blessed. And Shem had a descendant. As a matter of fact, his fifth descendant. Either his fourth or fifth descendant. Yeah, it was his fifth. And his name was Uz. In the land of Uz was a man named Job, who was perfect and righteous, a man that escheweth evil. I showed you in the 5th year that Yahweh said we can eat the fruit thereof, that it might yield its increase unto you. And now we're in the book of Exodus, the 24th chapter. And let's see what it says. In the book of Exodus 24. And we're going to start at the first verse and watch what it says. And he said unto Moshe, come up unto Yah, thou and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel, and worship ye far off. And Moshe alone shall come near Yah, but they shall not come near Yah, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moshe came and told the people all the words of Yah, and all the judgment. And all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which Yah has said, we will do. And Moshe wrote all the words of Yah, rose up early in the morning, and watch what Moses did, and built an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars, according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And why? Because this was Yahweh's increase. This was Yahweh's blessing. This is the first thing that Yah determined and thought to bless. And that was the 5th. Why you think there's 12 tribes? Because 12 is the order of 5. And you still might not believe me. So let's go to the book of Exodus 39. Everything that Yahweh do, it must be done in order. For everything about Yah is order. And since Yahweh has order, to everything, there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. And what you're learning today, what you learned the last 4 days, is time and purpose. Not my purpose, not your purpose, but Yahweh's purpose. This is what he purposed to do at the time that he did it. And once he did it at a certain time, then it dictated the purpose. And that purpose is not going to change. Whether it's the certain born, or certain generation, or certain day, or certain month, or certain year. And you can take that to the bank. Exodus 39. Well, let's see what it says. And I'm going to start reading at the 8th verse. And he made the breastplate of cunning work, like the work of the ephod, of gold, blue, purple, scarlet, and fine twined linen. It was 4 They made the breastplate double. A span was the length thereof, and a span the breadth thereof, being doubled. And they set it in 4 rows of stones. The first row was a sardius, topaz, carbuncle. This was the first row, and I may add, we're going to bring all this stuff to you, because even this has order, because everything that Yahweh do has order. And the second row, an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row, a ligure, and a agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, a jasper. They were enclosed in ouches of gold in their enclosing. And watch what the 14th verse says. And the stones
90 seconds
were according to the names of the children of Israel, 12, according to their names, like the engravings of a signet, every one with his name according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And why? Because 12 represents 5. And 5 is blessed, and 5 is his increase. How much more do I have to show you? Well, let me show you one more thing, so you can understand what I'm telling you is the truth. According to the book of 1 Chronicles, the 27th chapter, this is what it says. 1 Chronicles 27, the first verse. Now the children of Israel after their number, to wit, the chief of their fathers, and captains of thousands and hundreds, and their officers that served the king in any matter of the courses, which came in and went out, month by month, through all the months of the year. Of every course were 20 and 4,000. And you notice it says, now the children of Israel after their number. And what is their number? Their number is 12. Why do you think there's 12 months? Because this is Yah's increase. This is what Yah has determined and decided to bless. Not 13, not 14, 15, and all these other things you're hearing from other people. 12. And the last scripture is in the book of 1 Kings, the 4th chapter. Or make that 1 Kings the 7th chapter. And I was right the first time. 1 Kings, the 4th chapter. And watch what it says. 1 Kings 4. And write this down. Verse 7. And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel. And why 12? Which provided victuals for the king and his household. Each man his month in a year made provision. Because there's only 12 months in a year, brothers and sisters. Because 12 represents Yahweh's blessing. And it also represents Yahweh's increase. Because all 12 is the order of 5. All you have to do is read the scriptures that I'm telling you. And I can assure you that you will come to the same undeniable truth that what I'm bringing to you is the truth. And until tomorrow, Yahweh love you, and so do I. Shalom.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.